Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Have You Played, where I'm going to show you some spoiler-free gameplay from a selection of older games and give you my thoughts on them. In this video I'm playing The Walking Dead, the episodic graphic adventure title from Telltale Games that first released in 2012. Despite its popularity when it came out, I didn't actually play The Walking Dead until a few years later, and at that point I hadn't even watched The Walking Dead series or read any of the comics. After watching the first 2 seasons of the show though, I did give the game a chance, and despite Telltale Games technically not existing anymore, there's a reason they became such a well-known name in the gaming industry, so let's just talk about the game.
Let's go, guys.
The Walking Dead spans 5 episodes and follows the story of Lee Everett, a man with a complicated past, and a young girl named Clementine that he takes under his wing right at the start of the zombie apocalypse. Together, they join up with different groups of survivors in Georgia as they struggle against natural forces, hunger, undead threats, and even more dangerous human ones. Similarly to the comics and TV series, what makes the story here work isn't the zombies, but the human characters themselves. The heart of the game is specifically Lee and Clementine's bond though, and as their adoptive father-daughter relationship develops, it becomes one of the most memorable dynamics in any game of its kind.
That's nice. You'd be a good daddy.
The Walking Dead plays like an interactive movie, and it's the game that really solidified Telltale's signature style. Technically speaking, it's an episodic graphic adventure game with point-and-click and quick-time elements. You'll spend a lot of time moving around small areas, interacting with items, talking to characters, and making decisions that push the story forward.
Every time?
Every time.
The big hook here, however, is choice. Conversations often play out under a timer, so you can't just sit there and weigh your options forever. You've got to respond within the moment, and sometimes your words or actions have huge consequences.
You could say that.
At the end of each chapter, you even get a breakdown of the major decisions you made compared to the rest of the player base, which was always a really fun touch, even if most of the choices have balanced out to a narrow margin over the years. There's some light puzzle solving, like finding items to unlock progress, but they're fairly straightforward and usually take a backseat to the narrative. Unfortunately, these scenes can also be the lesser interesting ones, as you'll usually just be wandering around until you see an indicator pop up, letting you know that this item or window pane is important in some way. Sometimes you won't even realize that you missed an area of a room because of the shifting camera angles or an invisible wall stopping you from going further, which can be a little annoying as well. Usually it's not too much of an issue, but even having played the game before, there were still at least 2 areas where I got tripped up by wonky camera angles and found myself walking around in circles.
That doesn't seem necessary.
QuickTime events also pop up during action-heavy scenes, and failing them can mean a character could die or a situation turns against you. That tension can add a lot of urgency, even if the actual gameplay itself isn't super complex. However, the impact of your decisions is often more emotional than structural. The broad strokes of the story will always hit the same beats, but how you get there, who likes you, who survives, and how scenes unfold can feel very different from player to player.
I've seen guys go through worse.
The writing is where The Walking Dead really shines, even if it does stumble every now and then. Clementine is one of the best written child characters in gaming. She's smart and capable, but she still very much acts like a kid realistically would.
I know I need to be tough. I'm just sad.
Pairing her with Lee, who's a layered and complex protagonist, makes their relationship one of the strongest in gaming history. Unfortunately, the other side of the coin when it comes to the writing is the illusion of choice. The game places a huge emphasis on the impact of your decisions, often reminding you that characters will remember your choices, and while they do matter in the moment, the ending doesn't change much regardless of what you've done, and can feel like all paths converge to the same point no matter how much you deviate from what others chose.
Oh, you are not saying what I think you're saying.
Character quality in The Walking Dead is also hit or miss. Some of them are excellent. Kenny, Lily, Katja, and even Larry are complex and flawed in interesting ways that will make you love or hate them as people.
Stuff all that.
Others, though, don't quite hold up. Carly is introduced as a sharp reporter and is generally liked by fans, but she's also written to be a little ditzy and acts in really unrealistic ways sometimes, such as in the infamous radio scene.
You know that there are no batteries in that thing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah. No.
Other characters like Doug have dialogue that sometimes break the immersion with how out of place it seems, and then there's Duck.
Dad, we're in the middle of a fence! There's a tractor and everything!
Personally, I've never liked Duck's character. I know some players have warmed up to him over the years, but I still think he's one of the most frustrating kid characters I've ever had to deal with in a game, always making impulsive decisions and never quite getting that the world is literally falling apart, which gets even more frustrating when Clementine is so well adjusted in comparison.
Hey, Duck, you want to cool it for a minute?
Okay, sorry.
On the other hand, the pacing is mostly strong, though as I mentioned earlier, some exploration scenes can drag on if you don't realize what you're supposed to be doing next. Additionally, sometimes the dialogue system doesn't translate as displayed, and you'll pick an option that's written calm, only for Lee to shout it angrily, completely changing the tone of the scene.
You know people notice that.
This, along with the overall illusion of choice, are probably 2 of the bigger issues with the writing, but with everything else being in such good shape, it's easy to look past it and just enjoy the ride. From a visual standpoint, The Walking Dead has actually aged pretty well thanks to its stylized comic book art style. Shadows can look pretty awful if they get too close to the camera, and some of the wider establishing shots can look really plain compared to the up-close details you'll see, but it generally still looks solid as long as you don't overanalyze it. The audio mix isn't always consistent though. Sometimes dialogue sounds crystal clear, and other times a character that's only a few feet away from you can sound like they're talking through a pillow.
That can't be easy.
The sound design is also a bit of a mixed bag. There are times where every beat hits exactly as it should, but then you'll likely notice that certain actions don't have any sound effects when they should realistically be making noise. Voice acting, on the other hand, is generally excellent across the board, especially when it comes to Lee and Clementine, and the vocal performances here elevate the story more than anything else.
I'll protect her no matter what.
Even on the PS3, load times are pretty quick, which is great to see, but I did run into a few visual issues when the game transitioned between cutscenes and playable segments, and there's a good amount of texture and character model popping throughout the game. One of the bigger issues was that the game kept freezing on me during one specific section and forced me to restart the system twice to keep things moving. Aside from that one problem, nothing else was game-breaking, but the smaller issues do add up and pull you out of the experience if they crop up too often.
I'll bet.
When The Walking Dead first came out, it felt like something revolutionary had hit the market. Now, over a decade later, it's just a good game. Not amazing, not bad, just good.
Yeah? It's not too bad?
There are some definite flaws that are hard to look past, especially when it comes to the graphics, some performance issues, and even some of the writing, but because the emotional core of the game is so strong, specifically when it comes to Lee and Clementine's relationship, it still manages to stand tall. Telltale's formula won't appeal to every player, and the illusion of choice may not be as subtle as it was back when it first released, but if you're looking for a game with emotional weight and narrative strength, this one's definitely still worth a playthrough.
Well, this is as far as we're going.
As always though, this is just my opinion. Whether you're just making your way out of the city with Clementine, or you've already joined up with some other survivors, let me know in the comments what you think of The Walking Dead.
Well, I'm all done here.
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
Where are you? Don't make me do this!